to order, please. Is there any new or additional items to be placed on the agenda? I know we had a Norval Township that was added yesterday on the assessing part. I assume everybody got that? Okay, I need a motion and support to approve the agenda.
Support.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next up, we have a public comment. Any public comment? Doesn't look like we have public comment. Next up, we have the minutes from last month. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, Board. Next up, we have the finance report for July. Welcome, Mr. Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We're presenting to you the monthly financials for the 7 months ended July 31st. Budget benchmark is 7/12 or 58.3%. Year-to-date expenditures are at 55.6. However, this is a little optimistic because we do not record quarterly transfers until August. So those are not reflected there. The other items, if we skip ahead, if we look at the graph of expense and revenue, we're pretty much on track as far as expenditures. General fund revenue is ahead of the pace at the moment, and just point out that we're coming into the time of year when the treasurer's collecting the property tax revenues, and so we will have an uptake in revenues as indicated by the graph in the future months. The other funds, really don't have any comments there, other than, with respect to general fund and all the other funds, the budget amendments approved by the commission last month are reflected in the budget numbers that for all funds. So, any questions? Thank you.
Any questions, commissioners? Any discussion? Thank you, Mr. Latham. Moving on, we go to the HR retirement drop list. Just a couple people on there. Any questions on the list? Next up, we have the quarterly treasurer report. Welcome, Karen.
Good afternoon. May I pull up a report to be shown on the screen? He's saying no, he's saying yes. Okay. Not sure. Click on that, Connie? Okay. Bear with me. I have got a report for August. It's not complete yet, but I did want to provide the investments. Connie, I'm not sure where this is. Oh, is it here? Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. I've got it now. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so this is the standard investment report. You have received via email the reports for June and July. This is for August. As you can see, we have $3.5 million in short-term CDs. That's approximately 8% of the portfolio. In money market accounts, which is liquid money, just over $9.6 million, which comprises 21% of the total portfolio, and then the remainder, the largest chunk of the portfolio, treasuries and agencies, is at $33 million. So we've got just over $46 million invested. We did make it through, thank goodness, June and July. Those are always the worrisome months for me as we kind of hold on and make sure we have monies available for cash flow purposes, because that's we're not getting the taxes in those 2 months. So happy to report that we did make it through those months well. I did want to report some revenue updates. You can see, as Jim mentioned, we are getting the uptick in property tax collections from the local units for taxes, and our balance per the budget $6.6 million. Now, mind you, we have to get up to $20 million, but it's starting to come in, and it will increase the next coming months. Our dog licenses are at 58,000. Our target goal is 60,000, so we're doing very well as far as the licensing is concerned for budget. And we're holding steady with taking in passports revenue at just over $9,000. The next page just highlights the holdings and positions, the different types of investments that we have. They correlate nicely, obviously, with the first summary page there, but it just shows you the breakdown. Doing a lot of short-term investing right now with different banks throughout the state of Michigan. You can see a lot of the values are just at $250,000. That is because that is the FDIC limit. So I'm trying to be very prudent and mindful of not overextending ourselves to risk. So you'll see there's a lot of different holdings here in the short term, and just at the FDIC limit of $250,000. If there's no questions about the actual investments, I do want to take some time to talk about the forfeiture map. This map is, as of September 1, it shows basically 6 months of activity. These are the new parcels coming through the process. Our numbers are still pretty high, which is typical. We won't see a downturn in some of the larger townships and larger numbers till we get closer to next March. That is the deadline. You can see here that we are holding at just over 1,400 parcels, 1,441, which is 56% of our starting figure. Of note, last year at this time, we were at 1,497. So we have a decrease, and I think we've been trending that way since we started this forfeiture cycle this March. And as I've mentioned before, I do strongly believe that this is a direct result of the federal dollars that were available through the Step Forward program. And I will take a minute to let the commissioners know that if you're talking to your constituents and they're still experiencing problems with either mortgage foreclosure and or their ability to pay taxes, I believe that there are still dollars that are available through the Step Forward Michigan or Hardest Hit program. So please direct those people to the website. I've not heard from our contacts there. We're dealing with them on a regular basis, actually several times weekly now. They send us information wanting to get tax quote information. So in my book, that means that there's still monies available out there. So please let your constituents know that if they're experiencing hardships, that there is still opportunity, hopefully, to, if they qualify, based on their eligibility standards. I'm not sure what MSHDA has, but they'll walk them through the process and see if they qualify, and hopefully we can help some more taxpayers still deal with this foreclosure crisis. And then this month, for August, I don't have the allocated and unallocated interest because month end's not closed yet. If you recall, I sent you an email on Friday hoping that the reports would be finished. They are not yet finished. So once I get that pooled allocated interest and the unallocated interest complete from August month end, I'll send it to you in a separate email. But I did want to get this other information to you. This chart here just shows the 6 months of the forfeiture cycle. I know it's hard to read, but if you want individualized information about your townships or your areas that you cover, that information can be found on here. That is all I have to report for the financials, but as you know, I've also provided information via an email about the first auction that we had. I'm not sure what I'm doing here, so I'm clicking. I better stop. The first auction that we had was September 20th, and I've been asked, was it a successful auction? And the answer to that is yes, it was a successful auction in the respect that we had people that were in the room. We had about 250 people tops and 150 registered bidders. So we did sell properties. We didn't sell all of our properties. As you know, we had a target of just over $1.3 million that we had to collect. But by selling those properties at the auction, we fell short of that mark. The second auction will be October 7th at Gene Davis & Sons again. That seems to be a nice facility for us. And I do not anticipate what we have left to sell, and because it's not a minimum bid sale, meaning that the opening bid will be probably $100 or so for each of those parcels that are being offered. The likelihood of us getting close to $500,000 at that section auction is probably pretty slim. So, as I alluded to you in the email that I sent you, the likelihood of doing chargebacks again this year is very high. We really need to see how the townships fare with regard to what does sell at the second auction before I can make a determination as to who will be impacted by that. But unfortunately, that's our new reality. We just have too many properties that aren't being sold, and we need to recoup those dollars back into the delinquent tax revolving fund, and there is the vehicle that allows us to do that in the chargebacks. So if there's no other questions, yes? Yes. According to the statute, the second auction is a no minimum bid sale, and the treasurer has the authority to set a reasonable opening bid. We call it the scavenger sale, and most treasurers are not happy with how land is being processed that way, and we've tried to make some efforts in the legislation to change the law to make that second sale optional. Some counties want to take all their properties through both auctions and try to get rid of them. Some now are finding that in the past year or so that they're not successful in getting rid of all of the properties, so they have leftover properties at year end. But yes, processing and transferring properties for $100 or $250 really, in the long run, doesn't do us much good, because those properties tend to re-revert and we get them back coming through the cycle in 2 years. So it's not a perfect system, but yes, to answer your question, a person could pick up a property at the second auction for $100.
Any further questions for the treasurer? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got the Sheriff Department with a request for waiver for the RFP concerning the emergency dispatch system and proposed upgrades needed.
Morning.
Morning.
Come on, that side. I believe everyone has a copy of the letter that was submitted for the RFP exception request. What I'll do is I'll touch on some highlights of the letter itself and then answer any questions that anyone may have. We are requesting under the Purchasing Policy 2030 the exception for RFP, given the fact that we've identified a vendor that is primarily a sole source provider for the services for this project. The project itself is starting phases of upgrading and enhancing the 911 center. Everyone here knows, I'm sure you've had conversations with the sheriff and undersheriff and know the current state of the 911 center. That's had some challenges over time, and with infrastructure, equipment, water, and whatnot. And so this is the first step to moving forward with a project that replaces a lot of the equipment and moves us to a location that will be better suited for both the technology and infrastructure. So the obviously 911 center, the trunk lines, the phone system is the backbone of any PSAP or public safety answering point. Without the 911 calls and the trunking system, you don't have a 911 center. So this is the logical first step for moving forward with the project. AT&T is our current provider and essentially provides service to all of PSAPs in the state of Michigan. And we do have a contract for maintenance as well as upkeep with them currently. The current dispatch center, a little background, has been there since around 97, 98. Like I said, it's faced some challenges over time with infrastructure. The equipment that's down there is obviously aged since the initial installation of the equipment. We currently have some air conditioning issues down there that require the replacement of that system, and then water damage and water intrusion, which is the primary threat to the location down there. We had 3 or 4 years ago, we had water that got into the basement area there and shut down the entire 911 system, I believe the building as well. And then we've had water since then that has got into the electrical area and the dispatch area, as well as the emergency operations center, as recent as this morning actually, that's got down into the center. So We have some damages there. Facility has done the best that they could to try to repair it and address it, but as everyone knows, it's underneath the parking lot next to the building, and it's a difficult thing to fix. So they're doing the best to limp that along, but at this point, it's obviously a challenge. If that system goes down, as I said, it's the only PSAP we have in Jackson County and provides the only thing to the first responders. So without that, we're essentially dead in the water. It's our request, given the fact that per the 2030 policy, there's an exception that allows us to move forward with the RFP, or without RFP rather, and go forward with moving with AT&T, given the fact that the service they provide can't be matched by anyone in the state of Michigan, and no one else, quite frankly, offers the infrastructure that they provide. There's a few other companies that do maintain it, but they can't install it. They can't. It's not their equipment. So they ultimately all go back to AT&T. Other than that, is with regards to the project itself, obviously it's a large project. This is the logical first step because it is the backbone, but we do have some other projects that have been identified. We essentially broken it up into 4 or 5 main projects that will support the whole project, and those will all be RFPs, so they'll be moving forward after this part of the project. But until everything's completed and gone through the proper processes, we won't be moving forward. Obviously, with the magnitude, there's probably some questions that you have today, but if it's something we can't answer, obviously it's something that could be submitted to the sheriff or under sheriff for further discussion to clarify any points that we can't today.
First, Captain, thanks for the hard work on the project. I know it's not an uncomplicated process and the equipment's old. I do have several concerns. One, we talk about the fund, the wireless fund that this will come from, I think, and I think it'd be important to know what the balance is on the fund, how much goes into it every year, how much comes out, and what else we support from the fund. I'm also curious if there was coordination with our own IT department, and when I read through the proposal, and you mentioned it, I think, in your verbal presentation about being in the preliminary stages of relocating and upgrading the 911 dispatch center. That's something that when we first saw this, several of us began talking about and wondering where the best location for the dispatch center would be. And it seems to me with all the things that, all the questions, at least that I have on it anyway, I wonder if we'd be wise in delaying it for a time to have more in-depth conversations on it, in particular about the location of a moved dispatch center, as well as these other issues that I brought up.
Is that a motion?
So moved if need be, if there's no other discussion on
Or any
it.
other discussion?
I'll support it.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Mahoney.
I completely agree with Commissioner Elwell. I think if we're going to go into this kind of a purchase in an area that has as many challenges as you have enumerated, that it would be in our best interest to complete the conversation regarding where the 911 center would be located and then move forward with the new equipment so that there's no possibility of damaging that new equipment once it's purchased. It would be better suited if brought into the new area.
Commissioner Rice.
I would also concur. I'd just like to add that in regards to the policy 2030 that you spoke of, certainly you've made a compelling case in regards to that. I don't think anybody here disagrees with that. But on the other hand, you've made some other comments that which have been shared here that are concerning, especially if you relocate. And there's many other factors that are involved here. I think that needs to be taken into consideration, which has already been said by the other commissioners before we actually jump into this kind of spending and this kind of operation. I also think that even though there's nothing in this state nearby, I still wonder would it hurt to put out 3 bids. I just kind of question, would it hurt at all to even try it? I don't think so, but just throwing that out there.
It's probably the preparation of an RFP of that magnitude.
Mr. Chair.
I would ask the committee to select a date and time that you're postponing this to, please. Are we doing it for 30 days? Are we doing it 60 days? Are we doing 90 days? How long are we delaying this action?
We need a clarification of the motion too, Commissioner
Mr.
Elwell.
Yeah, that'll be fine, if we can talk about it just for a second. I mean, I would think that there would have been, or should be, more in-depth discussions with the IT department, with the administrator, and with board leadership. And I'd hate to stick a date on it, time certain. I suppose we could move it again. If we set it for 60 days out, we could move it again if necessary. You know, I think we all understand the importance of the 911 system working. We've kept it limping along this long, but it's too critical of a decision, I think, to try and hurry it. So if you want me to put a 60-day window on it, I'm willing to make that part of the motion. And if we need to, you know, move it farther out than that as that time approaches. But I think there's a lot of back room or back work that needs to be done on all these questions. So I'll add 60 days, I guess, to the motion.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Dave, I think certainly a conversation could be had and be brought back to this committee within 30 days. At least to say that we're going to complete the discussion as to where we're going to locate it.
If I may. And I'm fine with that too, but I guess point out, some of us have been here for a number of years, and we have had a number of ad hoc committees before, at least a couple I've served on related to the sheriff's department, and I wonder if this is something that would be best served by an ad hoc committee. I mean, there's a lot of things that are intertwined here about, you know, the wisdom in bidding it, where to put a new dispatch center. Is there wisdom in reaching out to other counties to see if we can do joint dispatching to operate more efficiently? It's not an uncomplicated thing, and, you know, although I understand the timeliness of making sure our equipment's up and running for the benefit of the public, I think we have to answer these other questions first. And I just think I'm more comfortable with a 60-day window. Our chair and the administrator can decide if we need an ad hoc committee put together. So I'll leave it at 60 days if I could.
Okay.
I'll support
Mr. Perlos, go ahead.
The only thing I would add, Commissioner Elwell, and obviously we appreciate the concern of the board. That's is an obvious thing to bring up. And we would have obviously we've had a lot of those discussions. We have had some conversations with IT, had a meeting with them as well as the administrator's office to discuss not only this process, but some of the things that we're moving forward with. The RFPs, in order to prepare them and look through those, we had to have a lot of those discussions to understand what we have, what we need, and where we need to be. And that's something we could obviously provide to the board, or if there need to be discussions outside of the board and understanding of what we need and why we need it, and some of the concerns that we have that went into this. We only brought this one to the table first because, as I said, it's the backbone of the entire process, and to get the ball rolling with the understanding that conversations needed to be had further to expand on this, that we could do that in order to start the process rolling. We understand it's a complicated process. We have done visits to other counties to understand what other 911 centers, PSAPs are doing as well, and we're trying to be in line with that so that we're using technologies that's been proven and tried, and we don't want to try anything else outside of the norm. The other thing with regards to AT&T and the other bids, the only problem is 911 is a very specific item. It's not something that you get multiple providers in, and so to get someone outside of AT&T, that's kind of their thing as far as providing that service to the state of Michigan. There may be someone else that could install the trunk lines and everything that go into it. We're not aware of it, anyone else using it. Not to say that it's not out there, but being the primary provider of it, and someone that we've enjoyed a relationship for a long period of time, knowing Jackson County as well as the state of Michigan, it was an easy choice for us. So just to know that some of those conversations, we can answer any questions that you have, and we have had a lot of those conversations to be prepared for it. It's obviously been an ongoing process over the last year or two with some of the challenges we've had down there. So,
Officer Piros, how critical is it to go to 60 days to review this, or 30? I mean, are you guys right on the edge of having a problem there, or do we have 60 days?
well, the questions that I think everyone here is looking for, we have the answers to. and it's something that we could accomplish very quickly because we want to be prepared and moving forward with something like this. It's obviously an important project. And just to give the board, I mean, this morning we went down there with the heavy rains and there was water coming in fairly freely on the east side of the building through the wall. Facilities, like I said, has been very good at addressing it and trying to do what they can. We've had water issues there. We've had water issues on the west side of the building as well. And then we have internal issues. So to say how critical it is, obviously it's important for us to move forward with it, but I also understand that the board has to be comfortable with that decision, and rightly so. You should know what's going on down there. But it is a critical, when you start having water and electricity mixing, it could be a problem, so.
What is your backup?
Current, for the PSAP,
current
right now, we're
backup?
located at the Jackson City Police Department, and that's been the backup for years.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions, discussion?
Well, I'm willing to leave it at 30 days if that be the preference of the group here. Looks like it kind of is. And again, if it's not enough time, we can move it again if need be.
Commissioner Lutchka, please.
Yeah, I think that's, you're done there. I think 30 days is a good compromise here. I really don't have a lot of problem with the waiver of using AT&T. I guess some of my concerns would be the location and maybe there's a more efficient way for location. I don't know.
Commissioner Elwell.
Well, with an additional 30 days, and again, as Commissioner Rice had said, would there be harm in letting it out to try and get 3 bids on it? And I'll say, as I look through the packet over the weekend, I mean, it seems kind of unfortunate. There's only one person that can provide this equipment and the service to us. They kind of have us over a barrel on the price. So I went out and I just simply Googled some of the equipment that is in the bid, and there's other providers of that. I ended up pulling up a 3-page list from another provider, looks like from Wisconsin, that does the same thing. So maybe not in the state, but I would think outside the state there may be other providers that make it a little bit more competitive, may make it cheaper for us through AT&T, I don't know.
So what's the pleasure of the board? We're going to put it up for vote, go for 30 days. Okay, you got that? Yep. Okay, any other discussion?
Mr. Vice Chair, if it
Yes, sir.
pleases the commission, I can answer a number of these questions. We obviously open and welcome any further dialogue that the commissioners or the administrator would like to have. And this is certainly not a means to move the tabling of this along, but you had some financial issues. Wireless surcharge is a state distribution to the public safety answering points. It comes once a quarter, approximately $80,000 dispersed upon per population. The balance in the wireless surcharge fund is about $1.1 million. It also supports the radio system. There are sufficient funds for this project and the current maintenance and any additions or upgrades we need to do to the radio system. As far as the location, our desire is to move it to the Channer Road facility on Channer Road. It's a current building, moving it to the front room area outside of the perimeter of the jail. Modern infrastructure, block building, supports this operation very well, and it gets us out of the number of buildings that this organization is scattered across, i.e. the courthouse, the boat barn, Channer Road, Wesley Street. It begins to consolidate our operations, make them much easier to basically oversee. As far as the number of vendors for the Casidian equipment that you saw, I'm sure that there are a number of vendors, but the problem that you have is AT&T, and I hesitate to call it a problem, they are very responsive, and AT&T knows phones, so I'm comfortable with them providing the service. AT&T owns and maintains and serves the trunks in the state of Michigan for 911. Therefore, this is their product, beginning to end, meaning purchase, install, and connection to their trunks. I'm sure you can go out and buy this equipment parsed all over. You can buy pieces here, pieces there, have another company install it, but nobody can connect it to AT&T's trunks. AT&T is the one who serves these trunks. They're the ones that come in at 1 in the morning when one of the trunks goes down, etc. So it is their system, their infrastructure, and we would prefer having a critical infrastructure component like this, the company that knows best connecting to these. I think their price is competitive based on what I've seen in other areas and other markets. Most PSAPs prefer to go with a sole source vendor for this type of connection when you're talking about this critical components and infrastructure that deals with the 911 trunking. So we look forward to future dialogue with you about this. And again, if any of you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Are we ready for a vote? All in favor of tabling this for 30 days?
Aye.
Any opposed? Appeared to pass by unanimously. Thank you. Second issue for the Sheriff Department, patrol car purchase.
I'd move to purchase.
Any discussion? Looks pretty clean cut. All in favor of purchasing the cargo, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Thank you. Next up, we have the Human Resources resolution here to correct a retirement policy issue. Welcome, Crystal.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This particular agenda item is submitted to resolve and proper document a matter regarding retiree health insurance deductions. And just in terms of background, at the July Pension Board meeting, a discussion occurred regarding health insurance premium deductions from retiree pension checks. And the matter ultimately was referred for the pension board's attorney as well as the county's pension attorney to recommend a solution to the matter. As a result, it is the recommendation of the county's pension attorney that the matter of retiree health benefits is fully covered and rightfully belongs in the 2011 legal document, which is the amended and restated Group Health Plan WRAP document. That particular document was approved by the board and fully addresses all aspects of eligibility and coverage for retiree health benefits. As a result, to avoid redundant coverage of this item, we are recommending that Section 19 of the pension bylaws be deleted in its entirety.
Thank you.
Sure.
Questions,
To
discussion?
approve.
Support.
Any discussion? Okay, I have a motion and support. We'll go to the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have facilities. Welcome, Rick.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair,
Good afternoon.
fellow committee members. Where would you like to start?
Well, up first, we have the request to approve a low bid from Sharp Construction, local contractor, happily, to install needed floor drain at the animal shelter. Do we need discussion or questions for Rick?
Move to approve.
Support.
No further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By the same? Thank you. Appeared to pass. Next up, we have Meals on Wheels van.
Move to approve.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Discussion. Commissioner Lutchka.
Sure, with some options in meals. It's only to the senior center. Yes,
Commissioner Elwell.
Rick, both of those other vans, one, the transmission is out, you're going to get rid of it. The second one, you're getting rid of also.
That's our plan. I don't believe it's going to be worthwhile to repurpose it.
Commissioner Rice.
No, I would just sell it as is.
Thank you. Do we have motion and support? Yep. Okay, we have motion and support. Any further discussion? We'll proceed to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Rick?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Rick's got the next one, I think, don't you?
Another one?
Lifeways
Oh,
contract.
yes, okay. This will be the contract, property management contract with Lifeways. Anything you want to say on this, Mr. Shealy? Or is it self-explanatory, you feel?
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion? Commissioner Rice.
Just for the record, I'd like to make a comment, and this is in regards to our Director here of Fleet and Facilities, as well as George Rocky, the CFO at Lifeways. Excuse me. Both gentlemen have been very persistent in this. This has been somewhat of a long process, and this collaboration now between the county and Lifeways is certainly a win-win situation, and I just commend both gentlemen for staying to task on this. I just believe that this will be an excellent opportunity for everybody, so thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's pretty cut and dry here. Need a motion and support?
We have it.
Okay. Proceed to vote. All in favor of this contract, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Equalization Department.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ruth.
First, I want to make sure you all got the documents. Yeah, all right. The purpose of my visit today is to bring you a request from Norval Township for the county to perform assessing administration for them and the necessary staff to do so. To give you a little background, in 2007, the new vision statement of the Board of Commissioners is to provide the citizens of Jackson County efficient and effective services by working cooperatively and collaboratively with other units of government and stakeholders. In the spirit of this agreement, the Equalization Department entered into the first such contract in 2011 with Parma Township. In June of this year, Eric Johnson, the supervisor of Norval Township, approached me to provide services for Norval Township as well. We had a discussion at the time that right now, because of our staffing levels in equalization, we would not be able to do that unless we could make some adjustments here. Our staffing has been cut 25% since 2006. And as economic activity picks up, our deed recordings are increasing, splits are increasing again. We're finding it difficult to keep up with the tasks that we have right now, the traditional equalization tasks. We have been assisting Norval Township for the last 2 months, providing a person out there 1 day a week and taking care of the very basic assessing functions. But in order to provide full assessment administration, we cannot do it with our current staffing. The fall and spring for assessing bring ECF studies, land studies, sales studies, finalizing all of those things, creating the role, doing the March Board of Review, all of those things that right now we absolutely could not do. We have one clerk, and the way it's been working over the last few years is, or the last couple of years, I should say, as things have started to pick up, is our staffing in the office has basically been helping to keep up with land splits and deed entry and all that kind of thing as it's increased. But right now, as we're helping Norval, we have one appraiser who's out of the office 2 days a week. That's 40% of her time. There's no way that we can keep up with that. So I had a discussion with HR and developed a job description of an assessing specialist, someone who is comfortable, has been doing assessing. Equalization and assessing, although we have the same education, are completely different functions and job descriptions, really. Different sets of laws and rules that govern our activities. If you look at the analysis, HR also developed a cost for this position. It is, including fringes, just above $62,000. The additional contract would generate an additional $28,700. And if you take a look at this chart that I've included right here, this is our total revenue. Obviously, equalization is not a revenue-generating department, but if we took on the Norville contract, it would be total income to the department of a little over $70,000. And if you look at the next page, the budget adjustments that would be necessary this year basically would be a wash because we're billing from July 1st on, so we're basically billing for a half a year. By the time I would get a new person in, you're talking maybe a quarter. I don't even think we could have them in there for 3 months, truthfully, by the time we get an ad out and all of that. But the impact annually, if you look at the 2014 budget year, is $33,800 roughly. Timing, basically, the committee obviously has the authority to approve the contract because it's under $50,000, but because the two are necessary together for us to be able to provide this service to Norville, it would have to go on to the full board to approve the full-time equivalent addition to Equalization Department. So the recommendation would be, I would recommend that with the support of the Administrator and Controller's Office, that we approve the contract and the addition of the full-time equivalent person to basically handle Norville Township, Parma Township, and that would give us a little excess capacity as well. So if we were approached again, it wouldn't take 2 months to get things rolling. So I guess I would, ask that it be sent to the board and answer any questions that you have.
Discussion. Commissioner Elwell.
Yes. Yes.
We have motion and support. Any further discussion? We'll proceed to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, we'll move to the claims. Anybody want to pay the claims?
Move the claims be allowed.
Motion and support to pay the claims. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have here other minutes. Any discussion or concerns or question other committee minutes? Okay, don't appear to be any. October reporting schedule. Everybody can review that. Moving up to our second round of public comment. Do we have any public comment? Appears to be none. Move up to committee member comment. Do we have committee member comment? We do not seem to have any. Meeting adjourned at 12:45.